Hi everyone, Letty here from Party Planner Papery. I have another hashtag PaperStashSmash video. This is a 6x8 paper pad smash, BittyPenny's Easter Blessings. Welcome back everyone. I'm participating in hashtag PaperStashSmash this year, and the prompt for March was 6x8 pad. So I took out this Easter Blessings paper pad by BittyPenny. You can find it over at bittypenny.com. I'll have that link down below for you. So it's called Easter Blessings. It is 6x8. You can see here a little preview, a sneak peek of what comes in this pad. These are cute little images that Toby had designed so that you could technically use them. The cover is only single-sided, but all of the other pages are double-sided, and you get 24 total pages. So the way that it works with these pads is you're going to get 4 of each of the patterns. You have your B sides, which have less of the decoration, and then the A side is more of your like cut aparts and sentiments. She does also give you some cut lines here, and you can see there's even this larger cut apart that will be a perfect A2 mat for an A2 card. So, and the way she also coordinated or designed these paper pads is that the fronts will coordinate with the backs of the paper. So you'll get 4 of each of these combinations. You can cut them down, make them an A2 mat, or even use it for like a 5x7 card with some extra border. But that's how it works. Again, you're going to get 4 of each of those designs. So you've got lots of options there. It kind of lets you not have to choose the cut aparts, but I will warn you, I think I chose the cut aparts, even though I had the B option. Here are some more super cute cut aparts. There are lots of different themes in this paper pad. You definitely have your traditional Easter kind of prints, and then you have some more faith-based religious with churches and crosses and things. Really, really gorgeous scenes. You've got here some little kids picking some Easter eggs, and then here are some more of the religious kind of faith-based images. You also have some little eggs and some lace there, and then again some patterns on the back that you could use to coordinate with those cut aparts. You also do have some super fun like little nature scenes with chicks and bunnies, and again it's just an all-around really great paper pad, whether you wanted more traditional with like the bunnies or more faith-based with the faith scenes. So, and then again you have your super cute backs, and then she does give you some cut aparts here, and so you've got lots of sentiments. You could cut these strips down and then cut out the different sentiments. You also could technically die cut out the sentiments that are up at the top if you have the right size dies. And then of course if you end up not needing as many sentiments, you've got some B side options that you can use as well, and you'll get again 4 of each of the patterns. So these are just super cute, and these patterns, these cut aparts were so gorgeous. There's another full panel like mat for your cut apart for your cards. These cut aparts are so gorgeous. Like I really just had a hard time using the B sides. I did use some of the B sides, like the back sides, but for the most part, I really used a lot of these cut apart images. So the next step that I do is I'm going to go through and cut up all of the cut aparts from this paper pad, at least the ones that I want to try to use. Again, this is Easter Blessings by BittyPenny. Let's move into the next step. Okay, so I have already cut up all of the cut aparts. I did leave 2 full sheets of the sentiments that I waited to cut because I don't know if I'm going to need these. If not, then I'm going to definitely use the back side, the B side. So I've left these 3 pages intact along with that cover. Now I have already cut up several of the sentiments, and I did already die cut a few of them that I was able to depending on my dies. I have all of the smaller cut aparts here. They're ready to go. I'm ready to start assembling and making cards. But before I do, you notice I have my glass mat out. This was the one I got from clearance, from Hobby Lobby on clearance. I also have these full page, like the full front panels, the large A2 panels. And then I also did already start to prep some card bases with just a little bit of the actual pattern paper on the cards. That way I can kind of speed through the process of assembling some of these cards, especially with those smaller cut aparts. I did bring in some smaller card bases as well, and some additional paper from my stash. So I have A1 size, which is the one in the front, and then I also have an A2, which is the one on the back. And so you see here, I did bring in some additional paper from my stash. It was several sheets of 12x12 and some scraps. I'm going to put those aside for right now. I'm going to put aside those sentiments for right now. And then what I want to do today is actually decorate my cut aparts. And I'm going to put aside everything else, but I have this acrylic gold paint, and it was from, I think it was from Joann's, maybe it was Top Notch brand, and it's water based. One of the things that I noticed on the label was that it's water based. So what I want to do is add a little bit of gold paint around the edges of all of my cut aparts, just to add a little bit of a border. So I've added a little bit of paint to my glass mat here, and I'm going to add a little bit of water just to break it down just a tiny bit, because I have not used this gold paint in quite some time. So I'm just kind of making it usable again. And so I'm sure it was usable as it was, but I just really wanted to dilute it just a tiny bit more. One thing that I do notice as I was going through on the papers is I probably should not have diluted it as much, because for some reason the water does not work well with this paper combination. So this is kind of what I wanted to do, was just add a little gold border all the way around. I figured it would add a little bit of some shimmer and give it almost like a matting, or like if I was adding some ink blending around the edges. But because the panels and the pictures were a little darker, instead of adding ink to the sides, I wanted to add some of this gold metallic paint. And so again, the idea is that once this dries, it's going to leave a little bit of a sheen, a gold sort of, you know, aura around the cut apart, so to speak. And so that was kind of my goal. And I really am happy with how these turned out once they're fully dried. So I'm literally just kind of going through, adding a little bit of paint. I'm adding a couple of different layers. And what I learned was that, again, adding that water sort of watered it down a little too much. I guess my paint wasn't as old as I thought. So the next few rounds that I do, I am going to just add the straight paint to these edges. I will go in at the end also, and I will add some like splatters, and that's where I'm definitely going to use the one that's a little bit more watered down. I really like the look of how everything turned out. You really can't see it right here. You might be able to see it a little bit more in just a few minutes whenever I do the full recap and you see the final like cards that I made. But I enjoyed this process, and I was like watching a movie and decorating the edges with the gold paint. Okay, so I have made all of my cards. This is all I have left of the paper pad. I even used, there were lots of pictures and panels here on the front. Toby, who is BittyPenny, had created it in a way that you could also use those images on the front if you chose to, which I did. And I'm going to show you, I got 4 extra cards just from the images that were here on the front. So I'll show you those at the very end. But let me just show you again. This is called Easter Blessings 6x8 paper pad by BittyPenny, and here is the website, www.bittypenny.com. You can check that out. Again, they are double-sided, pretty thick cardstock, and so I'm going to show you all the different cards. I was able to get 57 total cards. I did 2 different card sizes. I did an A2 size, and I also did an A1 size, or I think people have heard people call this a 4-bar, but I've been calling it an A1 for years. So I'm familiar with that term. But let me show you the size difference. So, and let me see if that makes it better. You can kind of see when you put it, this one's A2, this one's A1. Okay, so it's pretty significantly smaller, probably about an inch, you know, on each side, on 2 of the sides. But I was able to get 57 total cards. I had, again, 24 of the A2, 33 of the A1 size. So let's go ahead and look at all the different cards. And I will start with the larger ones just to kind of make it easier. So let's move this to the side. Now on these cards, I did go in and I definitely was able to get a lot of those cut aparts. As you saw, I was able to cut all of them up. I did add the gold watercolor around. It was just like the paint, but it basically turned it into a watercolor from the water-based acrylic paint. I think I really like the way that it adds that sheen, that metallic sheen all the way around on the cut aparts. You can really kind of tell, especially in the light. I did do some doodle lines, and I just used a Pigma Micron 3, and also I used a Pigma Micron 5 archival ink pen. I did also add enamel dots. I went through a ton of enamel dots from my stash. I had a lot of packs that were already started. I would say I went through at least 4 or 5 packs of, you know, some packs were brand new, some packs were just barely started, and then I had, I think, maybe 1 pack that had just a few, but I was able to finish up quite a bit. I did bring in my white marker, or like acrylic marker, and I was able to add some white dots, as well as some little like black dots with my Pigma Micron pen, and that was just to kind of make it look a little more aged. I added some dotted lines, again, zigzag and also some just doodle lines. I did pop up some of the sentiments on foam dimensional tape. You can kind of see there, that's that foam dimensional tape from Dollar Tree. And again, if the cut apart was gonna take up the whole card, I went ahead and left it the full size. I did use these white cards backgrounds, and these are the ones that I had gotten or purchased from Hobby Lobby, which is the paper studio, the brand, and they were on clearance. And so this had like a leaf or some kind of image under it. I knew I would cover up the entire image, but that is primarily why I buy those Hobby Lobby card sets on clearance, because I can get some really, really inexpensive card bases. So let's go ahead and go through all the different cards. I will say also, I did bring in some additional paper from my stash. You're going to see it more on these smaller A1 size cards. All of the mats and things that I use on the larger cards were from the actual paper pad. The way that Toby had created this pad was where you had 4 pages and they were all the same, and they had cut aparts on one side, and then the back was like a print that you could use to decorate, and they all coordinated. And so I am a sucker for cut aparts, and so in a lot of cases, I got all 4 of the cards, and I used the cut apart instead of the B side or the pattern print side. So again, I did bring in some sheets of 12 by 12 and even some scraps from my stash, but let's go ahead and look at these cards. I think they turned out really pretty. I love the sort of gold foiling. I also did like a spritz of some gold. I don't know if you can see it. You can kind of see maybe some of the dots a little bit right there. But I spritzed on, and I did some like watercolor dripping of that gold watercolor, but I think it just looks so pretty. And again, I brought in some of the like doodle lines and things just to kind of age the cards. So these all look pretty much exactly the same. I did 4, you can see the dots there. You see that paint, that was the splatter. So I did 4 of those. I think these were just absolutely gorgeous. And I didn't do anything else other than do the gold and the doodle line around these, because they were just such gorgeous scenes. And these cards were so quick and easy to make. So because the cut apart basically took up the entire card. So I made 4 of those. And then this was one of the backings, like one of the B-sides. And I had gotten to the point where I knew I was going to have way too many cards. So I went ahead and I did go ahead and use a couple of the backs. And I also did some doodle lines around the sentiments. And I used up quite a bit of those sentiments. You saw I pretty much had cut up an entire like 2 sheets of the cut aparts when I was showing you with the gold paint. But then I did go back and I did cut up even further. So I really did, use these cut aparts quite a bit. And so I, mixed and matched a lot of the cut aparts. And I also, again, sort of did things sort of similar, but I sort of changed up some of the orientations. Again, went through a lot of enamel dots on this one. This pattern, this pack of paper was really cute, and had a lot of just really, really cute images, fun images, gorgeous images. So again, just a ton of different, but a lot of similar, but also different patterns and prints. So I also did some dots there. Again, you have the more religious images, and then I added a little bit of gold all around the outside just to kind of give it a little bit of that touch. Nothing really, specific or anything. I really just kind of had some fun, honestly, with the gold paint. So now I also have a ton of A1 size. There's 33 of these. So there were 24 of those, 33 of these. Let's look at these. So I did, again, pop up the sentiments on foam dimensional tape. I also have that gold paint around the outside and some doodle lines. Everything that I did on the larger cards, I did on the smaller ones. And so the only difference is, of course, there's fewer cut aparts on each of these. I used some of the scraps. I flipped them around. These were, I think, some of like the scraps from the sentiments. I had way too many sentiments. I ran out of images. I also did the splatter on these as well. So I think it just made it look fun. I think the gold also makes it like look a little bit more like antique, aged. And so I had a ton of fun. And I think these did turn out super, super cute. Here's some of the additional paper that I brought in on a lot of these little A1 size cards. So again, you can just use up your stash when you're smashing this pad. If you don't want to, use the B sides. I think they were just super gorgeous, these little cut aparts. So I got a ton of cards. Here's some more of the paper. And that's primarily how I got so many, because I brought in some paper that was from my stash. But I felt like this paper went really well with the cut aparts and these images. I thought that they kind of meshed together really well. Like here I had additional sentiments. I literally had extra sentiments for days, and so I went ahead and I put them flipped around and added them as embellishments on the backs of some. Now at the very end I still had the front cover and I had those panels that were there, and I got the last 4 cards. And so these are the 4 cards that I got at the very end with these panels that were on the front of the actual cover of the paper pad. So here's this one. I just kind of put the 3 together. I left them, some of them I left them together so you can see there the white line that actually went with it. And then some of them I did actually glue together, but I thought they just made really gorgeous little clusters. Here's some where I glued 3 together. I thought they made great clusters, and I thought that they just made a really cute little, you know, card. Well, those are my cards. I had 57 total cards. It was 24 A2 size cards and then 33 of the A1 size cards. So again, total 57 total cards from this one 6x8 paper pad. It was 24 double-sided sheets. It's called Easter Blessings from BittyPenny.com. You can check out my friend BittyPenny here on YouTube. I will link her YouTube channel down below, as well as her website, which is the BittyPenny.com. So I hope you got a little bit of inspiration for that. You'll see all of these cards in just a couple of days when I showcase my month end projects that I did for this month. You'll see them one more time, but I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got a little bit of inspiration. Take out those paper pads. Make sure you check out BittyPenny and make a ton of cards. And as always, happy crafting. Thanks so much for visiting, everyone. Let me know in the comments down below if you've already started your Easter or springtime crafty projects. Happy crafting.